All right, today we're digging into the radical roots of a day you think you know, International Women's Day.
You know how it goes. Every March 8th, your social media just explodes with posts celebrating women, right? But what if I told you that the version we see today, the one with corporate logos and catchy hashtags, is a world away from its fiery, revolutionary beginnings?
Okay, so let's just look at this for a second. The difference is, wow, it's night and day, really. You've got today's version on one side, and then you have the original, a day born out of actual labor strikes, huge anti-war protests, and people demanding basic fundamental rights. Yeah, the original IWD wasn't about a nice celebration. It was all about struggle.
So to really get what International Women's Day is truly about, we have to look past all the modern stuff, the flowers and hashtags, and dig into its real historical roots.
And this whole story, it doesn't start with a celebration. It starts with a struggle. We're in New York City. It's 1909. The Socialist Party of America organizes the very first National Women's Day. And let me be clear, this was no party. This was a protest. We're talking thousands of women, a lot of them garment workers, marching through the streets for better pay, shorter hours, and the right to vote. And believe it or not, that single event in New York, it was the spark. It lit a fire that quickly jumped right across the Atlantic and started a global movement.
And I mean, this thing spread fast. Just a year later, in 1910, you have this German socialist, Clara Zetkin, who stands up at a conference and says, hey, let's make this an annual, international thing. And boom, by 1911, the very next year, you've got over 1 million people, women and men, marching all over Europe. The date wasn't set in stone yet, but the mission? Absolutely clear. They were demanding fundamental rights.
And check this out. This poster from 1914, which, by the way, was banned by the German government, it just perfectly captures the mood. It's not asking nicely, it's demanding women's suffrage. It calls it a natural human right. This wasn't quiet, this was loud, it was confrontational, and it was absolutely radical for the time.
But believe it or not, the most dramatic chapter in this story was still to come. Because over in Russia, International Women's Day was about to become more than just a protest. It was going to be the spark that helped bring down an entire empire.
So, picture this. It's March 8th, 1917. Russia is getting hammered by World War I. People are starving. And on this day, women textile workers in the city of Petrograd they'd had enough. They walked off the job and flooded the streets, chanting for bread and peace. They wanted an end to the war and an end to the food shortages that were crippling the country.
And what's so wild is that even the big-time revolutionary leaders like Leon Trotsky admitted they were totally caught off guard. He basically wrote, "We had no idea this was going to happen." The male leaders didn't plan this. The women of Petrograd just did it. And their protest just kept growing, pulling in more and more workers until the entire city just ground to a halt.
The results? They were absolutely staggering. This strike that started on International Women's Day, it literally turned into the Russian Revolution. Just 1 week later, the Tsar, the Emperor, was forced to abdicate. And one of the very first things the new government did, they gave women the right to vote. This forever linked International Women's Day with real, world-changing revolutionary action. So because of this revolutionary history, for a long time, International Women's Day was mostly celebrated in socialist and communist countries. But then, fast forward to the 1960s and 70s, a whole new generation of activists, the second-wave feminists, they rediscovered the day's power. They reclaimed it and turned it into a platform to fight for their own battles, things like reproductive rights, equal pay, and ending gender-based violence. And that big shift from the radical fringe to the global mainstream really got locked in 1977. That's the year the United Nations officially recognized March 8th. Suddenly, it was on the world stage.
But going mainstream created this tension, a kind of split personality for the day that we still see today. On one side, you have its hardcore activist roots, and on the other, you have this modern, much more commercial version.
Yeah, the last few decades, the day has gotten a lot of criticism for becoming what some people call pinkwashed. When a company uses feminist ideas as a marketing tool to sell you stuff. It's kind of ironic, right? The very same types of corporations that the original protesters were fighting against are now sponsoring corporate breakfasts and social media campaigns, basically using the day as a branding opportunity.
And you can see this split perfectly when you look at the themes. The official themes from the UN, they're very political. They're calls to action. They're about things like investing in women or digital equality. But then you have the popular hashtags, the ones you see everywhere, often pushed by corporate websites. They're way more vague and, let's be honest, more marketable. Stuff like #InspireInclusion. It's just a completely different vibe.
But that is not the whole story, not by a long shot. Because while some companies might be celebrating with branded cupcakes, the original fiery spirit of protest, it is very, very much alive.
People are still using International Women's Day as a powerful moment for global action. Take 1979 in Tehran, right after the Iranian Revolution. When the government tried to impose mandatory veiling laws, thousands of women poured into the streets on March 8th to protest. It was an incredible act of defiance.
Or jump to 2019 in Mexico City. Activists used March 8th to erect what's called an anti-monumenta. It's this incredibly powerful public symbol that stands as a constant protest against femicide and gender-based violence. They turn the day into a lightning rod for one of the country's most urgent issues.
And this is happening all over the world. In Pakistan, you have the annual Arat March, which directly takes on conservative social norms. In Spain, massive strikes in 2018 saw millions walk out to protest the gender pay gap. And get this, in 2022, Russian feminists used the day to protest the invasion of Ukraine. It's a direct echo of those bread and peace demands all the way back in 1917, full circle.
So all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question, right? What is the future of this day with such a split personality? Where does it go from here?
Is it a day for corporate-friendly celebrations, or is it a day for radical, revolutionary struggle? For hashtags or for strikes? Maybe the answer is it has to be both. Maybe its greatest strength is this tension. It's a day that can start a conversation in a corporate boardroom and, at the exact same time, fuel a protest on the street. It's a day that lets us celebrate how far we've come while reminding us really clearly just how far we still have to go. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what its revolutionary founders would have wanted.